Apply initial tension to the chain tensioner with special tool J45027 and lock. Insert the chain tensioner in the housing. And fix with EN 46112. Before assembly, ensure the gasket is seated correctly. Before the primary chain is fitted, it's necessary to check from underneath that the markings for the crankshaft sprocket and the oil pump are in alignment. Now, on the intermediate sprocket 246, the correct position of the light-coloured chain link can be checked. The marking for positioning the primary chain can be seen at the top. Place the primary chain in position. Fit the guide rails and the tensioner. To position the secondary chain of cylinder bank 135, turn the crankshaft about 115 degrees further. To do this, remove the two locking tools for the camshafts. Exchange the tools and fit special tool EN 46105-2EU to the ends of the camshafts of cylinder bank 246. Place special tool EN 46105-1EU on the ends of the camshafts of cylinder bank 135. And continue turning the camshafts until the locking tool engages. Now, the marking on the camshaft sprocket must be in alignment with the second marking on the oil pump. Place one light-coloured chain link on the triangular marking of the intake camshaft sprocket and on the marking R of the exhaust camshaft sprocket. Fit the guide rail, tensioning rail, and the tensioner, and relieve the tension. Now the chain links must also fit on the intermediate sprocket of cylinder bank 135. To check the timing, both cylinder head covers must be removed. Remove the spark plug of cylinder 1. Screw in special tool EN 47987. Position the engine to just before TDC of cylinder 1. The flat areas of the camshafts of cylinder bank 246 are roughly horizontal. Install the dial gauge MKM 571B with an initial tension of 2 to 3 millimeters. Set the top dead center using the reversing point. Set the dial gauge to 0 and continue turning the crankshaft in the direction of rotation of the engine until the piston has moved downwards by 2 millimeters. If the timings are correct, special tool EN 46105-2 EU must fit on the camshafts of cylinder bank 135. And EN 46105-1 EU must fit on the camshafts of cylinder bank 246. To remove the turbocharger, remove the battery and the battery support. Disconnect the wiring harness plug for the solenoid valve bypass and charge pressure control solenoid valve and set the wiring harness aside. Detach the crankcase vent line, the charge pressure control vacuum line, and the ventilation line, and remove the air intake pipe. Detach the charge air pipe. Unscrew the 2 bolts and detach the coolant return line. Remove the coolant compensation tank. Remove the upper heat shield and the lower heat shield of the turbocharger. Remove the mixture control oxygen sensor and unscrew the 3 nuts. Detach the catalytic converter from the cylinder head. From below, detach the exhaust gas system from the catalytic converter. Unscrew the 4 screws and detach the 2 brackets of the catalytic converter. From above, detach the 2 gearbox actuation cables. After removing 3 nuts, unscrew 1 further bolt and remove the bracket for the gearbox cables. Remove the main brake cylinder heat shield. Take out the catalytic converter control oxygen sensor and lift out the catalytic converter upwards. Seal the turbocharger with special tool EN 47983. Detach the heat shield for the exhaust manifold, cylinder bank 135. Unscrew 2 nuts from the connecting pipe on the turbocharger. Unscrew 3 nuts on the exhaust manifold and remove the connecting pipe. Dismantle the front panelling. Detach the air intake pipe and pull the coolant hose off the coolant discharge port. From above, suspend the cooling module, detach the power steering hydraulic line and fix. Detach the cooling module bracket and push the cooling module towards the front. Disconnect the wiring harness plug from the secondary air pump. Pull off the air intake pipe and the delivery line. Unclip the coolant line. Unscrew the 2 bolts and remove the secondary air pump. From above, remove the air intake pipe and the secondary air delivery line. Remove the bolt and take out the oil dipstick guide tube. Remove the upper part of the charge air connection pipe and the 2 upper fastening bolts of the connection pipe. Remove the upper bolt of the heat shield. From underneath, detach the charge air hose from the charge air connection pipe. Unscrew the bolt and remove the charge air connection pipe. Unscrew and remove the 3 lower bolts for the heat shield and take out the heat shield. Remove the bolt for the turbocharger oil supply line bracket. And unscrew the banjo bolt of the oil supply from the oil filter housing. From above, detach the oil supply line from the turbocharger. Unscrew the 3 nuts from the exhaust manifold connection pipe and remove the bolt plate. Remove the bolt for the coolant supply and the bolts for the oil return. Unscrew the fastening bolt for the turbocharger and withdraw the turbocharger upwards. When installing the turbocharger, ensure that the coolant supply and oil return lines are seated correctly. Attach the fastening bolt for the turbocharger and the bolts for the oil return and the coolant supply. Use new gaskets in each case. Attach the 3 nuts for the exhaust manifold connection pipe. Attach the oil supply line to the turbocharger and from below install the oil filter housing. Fasten the oil supply pipe bracket. Fit the heat shield. Attach the charge air connection pipe and the charge air hose. From above, screw in the upper bolt of the heat shield. Attach the two fastening bolts and the upper part of the charge air connection pipe. Install the oil dipstick guide tube and the secondary air delivery line and fit the air intake pipe. Attach the secondary air pump. Fit the cooling module bracket, the power steering hydraulic oil line, and the cooling module. Connect the coolant hose to the coolant discharge port and attach the air intake pipe. Mount the front panelling. Attach the heat shield for the exhaust manifold cylinder bank 135. Fit the connection pipe to the exhaust manifold and to the turbocharger. Remove the special tool EN 47983 and insert the catalytic converter. Install the catalytic converter control oxygen sensor. Attach the main brake cylinder heat shield, the bracket for the gearbox cables, and the two gearbox cables. From underneath, fit the two catalytic converter brackets and the exhaust system. From above, attach the catalytic converter to the cylinder head. Coat the stud bolts with special grease and screw the catalytic converter firmly in place. Screw in the mixture control oxygen sensor. Attach the lower heat shield of the turbocharger and the upper heat shield. Attach the coolant compensation tank and the coolant return line. Install the charge air pipe, the air intake pipe, the ventilation line, the charge pressure control